Welcome everyone. This is Margarita with CityGal Papeterie. I am going to be continuing with my Christmas series here, and I wanted to share with you some very easy Christmas tree cards that anyone can make in any level of crafting or card making. We're gonna start with this very simple stitched card. You're gonna need an embroidery needle. I'm using a bookbinding needle, but anything that fits the type of string that you want to use. You could use floss like I'm using here. You want two different colors, either in the same color family or whatever colors you want, honestly, but two colors will work best. You're going to need a small panel of paper. The size doesn't entirely matter as long as it fits on the front of your card base, of your card base. And then you are going to want to thread your floss or yarn or whatever string you're using. You could even use some type of metallic or gold thread for this if you choose. You're going to make a knot on your thread, make sure it's doubled, and then find the center of your paper towards the top. Again, I'm not using measurements here. I'm probably about an inch away from the top edge of the paper. And then I use both my fingers, I drag them to the middle, and that's how I am finding my middle. I poked a hole, and now I'm going to thread my string through the back of the paper. And now I'm going to start threading to the bottom of the paper, and what I'm doing is I'm creating a triangular shape here, like a Christmas tree. The amount and the number of holes that you stitch is really up to you. It depends on how long your string is. I think I just do 4 stitches here from top to bottom. As you can see, I'm repeatedly putting my needle through the same hole at the top. And then I'm picking a different spot at the bottom. I do want some variety, so I'm going to make some of them lower than others. You don't have to start with the right and left threads. You can start anywhere as long as your shape ends up in that triangular shape. So now that I've run out of thread, I'm going to cut my string from the back and make a knot so that it doesn't come through again. And then I'll cut the long pieces that are left over. And then I'm going to grab my second color and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start at the top from the back. And then I'm going to try and fill in some of the areas that are blank still. So as you can see, I have some little spots that could use some more thread in between the darker green, and that's where I'm going to place the lighter green. And again, I'm not measuring any of this. I'm trying to make sure this is as simple and basic as it can be. And now I have space for at least 2 threads in the middle, so that's what I'm going to do. And I do, again, I poke my second hole at the bottom, higher or lower than the next one. I'm not being particular in any way. I just wanted to have that shape of a Christmas tree. And once again, I'm done with my thread. I have no more to make another stitch. I'm going to cut and tie my string. And this is what it looks like so far. So you could stop here, but I'm going to continue to add embellishments to my little panel. I have some sequins here that I want to use as ornaments, but you could use some stickles or glitter glue if you want to add some ornaments or some other elements to your panel. You could also use some glittered paper and punch some holes, and those little holes could be your ornaments. And I have glitter, not glitter, I have gold mini sequins here that I made a mess with, but these are good as well. I think those are the ones I actually settle with. And I found a gold star sequin, so I'm gonna use it as my star top on my Christmas tree. You could cut a star out, you could use a sticker, a puffy sticker, or anything that you have on hand. You could even leave it without a sticker if you so choose. I put some glue dots on my thread, and I'm now following that with the sequins and placing them where I've already added the glue. And as you can see, it gives it a little bit more shine and shimmer, a little glamour, and it's adding the look of little ornaments. And once again, you could stop there, but I'm going to add a sentiment stamp. This is a Tim Holtz stamp set. I forget the name now, but I will include it on the screen. And on this one, I'm going to stamp Merry and Bright. I'm using Hero Arts black ink here, and a very small acrylic block. And I will just stamp that right at the center at the bottom. And once again, you could stop there if you'd like. You can add this flat on your card base. I am adding it on with some foam squares so that it has a little bit of dimension, and there's also some even height with excuse me, with the thread that's on the back. I'm so sorry, my friends, if I sound really tired. I am. I've been nursing my sick husband, so that's why this video is coming in a whole day late. But anyway, I grabbed my stickles and I added a frame around my red panel to give it a little more glitter, and I really like how that looked. And again, you could keep it much more simple, or you can add as many embellishments as you'd like. For the next card, I grabbed a bunch of scrap papers that I thought might work well on this card, and I'm going to be cutting out some triangular shapes to create some cutout Christmas trees. So you could either use just a large triangle, or you could use 3 triangles in ascending shape. I don't think that makes sense, but like a smaller triangle and then a larger triangle and then a larger triangle. So ascending size in ascending size. So you could make either the curved bottom or the flat bottom type of Christmas tree, or if you want to get fancy, you could even cut it with the little corners to give it a more Christmas tree type of look. I'm going to keep it super simple for this. I also am not using all of that paper. I just wanted to have some examples of the types of paper you could use. It doesn't have to be Christmas themed paper. So I'm sketching out some triangles here on the back of this paper that I've chosen to use. And again, I start out with a small triangle. I've got a medium triangle and then a larger triangle. If you want perfect triangles, by all means, use a ruler. I do not want perfect triangles, so I am not using a ruler. And then I'm going to grab some scissors. Again, you could use paper trimmers for this, but I want to keep this very minimal in supplies, very minimal in tools. And so, just your basics should work just fine for this. So once you've got your little triangles, you can layer them together to create your little layered Christmas tree. And that's what it would look like. Now, again, you can stop here and use that tree. You can make multiples of those types of trees. I'm here looking for different papers so I could add more trees just in different colors. But I do settle on making 2 more trees of the same pattern paper. I found this really pretty wood grain paper and I decided to use that as my background. And again, right now I'm just using scraps. I'm not using any new paper pads. Using the pieces that are left on my paper, I'm gonna basically use that as a guide, and I'm gonna cut out my next triangles. And I'm freehanding these. I did not trace any more triangles. I'm just going by what I've already cut into the paper. You can make the triangles smaller if you want to make a smaller tree, or you can make them larger. But as long as you have the three sizes, a small one, a medium one, and a large one, you'll have that nice, like, dimensional look of a Christmas tree. So I do cut one more. And then after that, again, you can leave them as they are, just a plain paper. But I decided to take some Lucky Clover Distress Oxide ink and some of my black ink and a makeup sponge, and I'm blending some color on the three edges of my triangles, but on the left edge and the bottom edge I'm also adding a tiny bit of black so that my trees have a little bit of shading on the left side, and there's also shading on the bottom of each triangle, and this will help them to stand out and give it some more dimension and some depth. It also makes the little tree look almost a little rounder. It'll pop out from your background and just give it a really nice touch. But of course, if you decide not to do this, or you want to keep it really simple, even if this is a project you want to do with children, this would be a good idea. You don't have to use the blending, of course. Now I'm gluing my pieces together. The card on the right, I didn't get on film because I ran out of batteries, but I will go over that in just a moment. So right now I'm just gluing my triangles together. And once that's all done, I'm going to add a foam square. You don't have to do the foam square. You can just glue it or tape it right onto your background. But I'm always trying to add a bit more detail just to see how much detail I can actually get on the card. So there they are, nicely elevated up on the background. And now I'm going to add another sentiment from that same Tim Holtz stamp. Excuse my head here, making sure that I have it straight. And this one says peace on earth. And then for even more detail, again, you can stop where you were. I'm going to add some little glitter dots on my trees with my stickles. And that completes that card. I really love how that turned out. So for this next one, what I did was cut a larger triangle from this metallic type of paper. And then I cut that triangle into 4 pieces. And now I'm going to add them onto this green polka dot background with some foam tape to give it dimension. I cannot live without dimension. But you don't need it. It's not necessary. So there it is. I also added some stitching to the sides of my little green polka dotted panel, and I added that other graph paper onto the back. And now I'm just going to glue that onto my card base. I'm just making sure my strings are going to stick to the glue so they're not sticking out of the sides. And there it is. You can again add more embellishments or sentiment. I actually left this one exactly as is. I did not add a sentiment. For the next type of Christmas tree card, we're going to use these foam stamps. Now you could create these with a piece of foam. This is just a foam sheet that I use like on the back of some of my elements on cards and things to add a little bit of dimension. But you could very simply cut out a triangle just like this. And then you could use some double-sided tape to stick that onto an acrylic block or some other tool that will give you a nice flat surface to press it onto your paper and your ink. So here I'm just sticking it onto this small acrylic block using just double-sided tape. And and that'll give you the same impression that I'm going to be creating with the other small acrylic and foam stamps that I have. I've grabbed basically every green ink that I have in my stash. You don't need a bunch of different greens, just probably 2 greens would give you this nice look, but you could even use just a 1 green and do like the ghost stamping so that you can get it in different shades. So I'm imagining here 4 rows of triangles on my paper. So I'm stamping randomly, but also keeping in mind what the end result is going to be like. So I'm going to want 3 triangles, excuse my head here, 3 triangles, 4 rows. And I'm randomly stamping my little shapes onto my card. And I'm not being too concerned about them being, you know, the same color next to each other or the same shape next to each other, as long as I have a variety and they look random. You know, that's what I want, is for them to look random. And so I'm cleaning off the foam so that I can change colors here. And as you can see, I'm using this color box green. I've got a Hampton Arts green, and I've got 1 distress oxide ink and 1 distress ink. And I can list all of the colors below in the description box. So here's an example of what the foam sheet one looks like. It looks exactly the same. And then to clean it off, you're just going to re-stamp it until you don't see any more color. And again, you can stop here. I'm going to add a little bit of green embossing powder to 2 of my triangles, the 2 lightest ones. This green embossing powder came from this Stampendous embossing powder kit. And then I'm going to grab a coffee filter to have my powder fall into. I don't need a spoon. I don't know why I grabbed a spoon. I only need that with a large container. And then I have this clear embossing ink. And here I'm just inking up my solid triangle stamp. And I'm going to go over the first light green triangle. And then I'm going to pour the powder over it. Let the excess fall into the coffee filter. And then I'm going to use my heat tool to melt that powder on my paper. I do that off screen. As you can see, my heat tool's right there. It doesn't reach where the camera is, so I do heat set the powder off camera. But that's what it looks like. It darkened up that triangle. I felt like it was just too light. And so now I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom right triangle, or I guess the third triangle from the right. And it's going to darken it up, and it's going to give it a little bit of shine. And once again, I'm going to heat set that off camera. Now that I'm done with that, you could stop there, or you can continue embellishing. I'm going to add some sequins. I've already added my little glue dots, and then I'm adding my sequins to that. I also added a ribbon to the left hand side. And now I'm going to add another sentiment from the same Tim Holtz stamp set. And this one says, "Joy to the world." I settled on a spot, and I'm going to press my stamp down to create my impression. And I love this card. I really like how that looks. For the last card, we're going to make a like a negative type of shape. So I'm cutting my card mat down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. Now I'm gonna bring my paper to the 2-inch mark, and I'm gonna start cutting a slit from 1 inch down to 4 inches. So I'm not cutting the entire paper. I want a large triangular shape in the center of my card mat. So again, I'm cutting a slit from 1 inch to 4 inch. I'm going to turn my paper, and then I'm going to cut from 1/2 inch to 3 3/4. No, to 3.5. Yeah, because my panel is only 4 inches. And now I'm going to join those slits with my blade. So from the top point of one slit, I'm going to cut down to the point of the next slit in this triangle shape. You could do this by hand. I chose to do to use my trimmer just so that I wasn't cutting any kind of crooked lines, and to make sure that my points were going to meet someplace solid, you know, like in the middle of the panel and not off to the side or crooked or anything like that. I've chosen a background paper. I have this green leaf paper, and I'm just making sure that it's in the center, and it's going to be show behind my triangle. And then I'm going to add my little window, a piece there with some foam tape to give it dimension, and also some shadow, which makes it look really nice. And now to finish this card, I'm going to add a sentiment, the same one I used previously, Joy to the World, right in the center of the Christmas tree. You could also add a star or some stitching details or some ornaments. I don't. I keep this one very simple. And that completes that card. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I really hope that you try these cards out. If you do, please let me know. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And yeah, these are just some super simple cards you could make with your friends or on your own if you're at any level of crafting. I hope you're enjoying this holiday, and I'll see you guys next time.